Imagine if Joni Mitchell had built a lead gen campaign for Blue. It wouldn't be flashy or full of clickbait. It'd be a series of raw, intimate letters that slowly pulled you in until she felt like she was telling you a story. That's the kind of connection we're talking about today. How vulnerability isn't just emotional, it's effective. We'll dive into why showing honesty builds trust and why authenticity isn't just relatable, it's a smart, strategic move. Welcome back to On the Record. It's our 7th episode of the day, season 3. Michael, you and I are joined today by the wonderful Chris Schermer of Schermer. Chris, welcome to the show.
Thank you, guys. It's a pleasure to be here.
And we're excited to have you, Chris. We're going to talk a little bit about vulnerability and not considering it as a weakness, but perhaps a strength. And even better yet, maybe a superpower.
Yeah.
And speaking of superpowers, this record by the lovely, the one and only Joni Mitchell, Blue, we're also going to talk about it and its parallel to our topic today as well. So, Chris, before we do so, would you just tell us a little bit about your background and 28 years of experience being an agency owner?
Sure, yeah, you bet. 28 years is a long time. We're a B2B agency here in Minneapolis, nationally known. I'm proud to say we have clientele all over the world. SAP, we work with Best Buy Ads, a retail media network, Red Wing Shoe Company, Pearson, Solventum, Logitech, and a number of others. B2B is our main focus. It has been since we've started, and there's a lot of similarities to the vulnerability theme that we're going to talk about today in B2B. One of the things that I find is that it's not very easy for B2B companies to be vulnerable. We all know that, right? We're trying to show clients that we can lead them with confidence. And so that vulnerability doesn't oftentimes come through in our clients and in our industry's marketing. But there are times when it does, and I think it really is a superpower when that happens.
I love that, yeah. We're going to get much further into that as we go on throughout the discussion. You, good sir, are going to take us through a little bit about that vulnerability and what Joni was going through when she created this record and how it ladders up in today's discussion.
Absolutely, yeah. And one of the big reasons that we chose Blue for this episode is because of how vulnerable she was. She was going through 2 major public breakups. One with James Taylor, with Graham Nash of Crosby, Stills and Nash. And you can hear it in this record. It's all about loss. It's about moving forward, right?
Sitting in a park in Paris, France, reading the news and it sure looks bad. They won't give peace a chance. That was just a dream some of us had.
What was amazing was in interviews with Joni, she kind of says, I didn't feel like I had anything to hide anymore. Because of these very public breakups, she felt like, well, now I can just write authentically because you already know everything, right? Or at least you know what the media knows. And there was so much talk about it that she felt like, you know what? Let me just put it all out there. Let me tell my side of the story. And I felt like it related so well to this topic because sometimes brands, we need to lean into that. Mm-hmm. Sometimes we need to change the public perception. But you don't do that through brute force, right? You do that through relational components like vulnerability.
I am on a lonely road and I am traveling, 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 looking for something. What can it be? Oh, I hate you some, I hate you some, I love.
This felt like such a perfect record to discuss how do brands start to leverage vulnerability to build customer relations. And you had some great ties back to this record.
Yeah.
And I'm really excited to hear, you've got a great case study to share with us today too. Yeah.
But tell us first, you love Joni Mitchell.
Oh, I love Joni, yeah. Especially, I mean, Both Sides Now is probably one of my favorite songs of all time, but this album, my first introduction to it was when I was a junior in high school, and I had a humanities teacher named Mr. Goodnature, of all names, and he really was a good-natured person. And he would introduce us to all the eclectic arts that were out there, movies. We watched musicals. We listened to folk music, and he was my introduction to this album, Joni Mitchell Blue, and James Taylor, Jim Croce, Cat Stevens, all of those different artists that at the time, I told you that it didn't really strike a chord with me. It was a little over my head when I was 17 years old.
You got the touch so gentle and sweet, but you got that look so critical. Now I can't talk to you, baby, I get so weak. Sometimes I think love is just mythical.
It wasn't long when I was in college and I was an English major and I was really exploring poetry and literature and so on, that I found myself gravitating back to folk. And the poetry of the music, especially Joni Mitchell's, it's just inherent in what she does. And so I've been a fan ever since.
Did you ever tell Mr. Goodnature about your circling back to it?
We did stay in touch for a long time. I think I've given him a lot of credit for a lot of where I am right now, and he should feel that love from me, because I became an English teacher in a lot of respects because of that guy. And that led me to pursuing creative and writing, and that led me to advertising and marketing, and here we are.
Amazing.
Synergistic pathway, I love that, Well, we'd love to talk a little bit more about maybe how do you start as an agency, Chris? We talked about vulnerability can be quite a superpower if businesses are willing to lean into it. How do you convince folks to do that? Long-standing brands, reputable brands that might be a little stuck in their ways.
Like I said at the top of our episode here, it's hard because, again, we have to lead with confidence. And every B2B client that we have, whenever we get a brief on a new campaign, it usually has the word confident in it. We want a confident tone. We want to display confidence in what we do. Reliability, confidence, those are qualities that are innate in most B2B brands. But if you take the next step into how they actually work together, these companies and their customers, it becomes very entangled in B2B. I mean, you become co-creators in a lot of cases around what that product is going to be or how it's going to perform and so on. So I think that brands need to take that step into vulnerability to show what kind of a good partner they can be. Because without that, you are just putting a veneer up. And it's everything behind the veneer that really makes a great B2B brand and relationship.
Absolutely.
You've introduced vulnerability to Leadpages in a little bit of a different way. You take an MVP mindset from your product delivery as well. And that is vulnerability, and it sometimes shows up in those early user experiences. Maybe your version, Michael.
I think bringing users along for the ride, or customers really, along for the ride is really important. And we're not perfect. We don't get everything right. And I think if we can start to admit that, it frees us up to do more creative work, take more risks. Because if our customers expect us to push the boundaries, they know not every boundary we push is going to be a home run. But if they expect us to do it, then it opens us up for failure, right? We're allowed to fail in that capacity because we are trying to discover something new for them. And if we can bring our customers along for that ride and be okay with a little failure, I think you got a great saying here, I don't want to steal it, but like that failure is where we learn, right? And so if we can be open to that as a company, it allows each person within the organization to take a little bit more risk and not have to be so concerned with perfection.
Absolutely. Yeah, that saying that you were referencing was, when we were talking earlier, a mantra at Schermer is that we never lose, we always learn. And I didn't make that up, but I fully embrace that mindset. Going back all the way again to high school, I was a wrestler in high school, and I was terrible when I first started. And I refused to quit, and I just dedicated myself to always getting better. And I still maintain that same mindset at the agency. We're constantly changing, we're constantly evolving, we're constantly failing. Hopefully people don't see that very often, but we own up to it when we do, because it's a learning opportunity. And I try to teach my team that as well. I always say nothing's going to get you fired here except gross negligence and gross incompetence. But the second one is my fault because I hired you.
Of
so
course.
So yeah, I think that vulnerability is how people get better.
Yes.
You know,
Yep.
without it, you're setting your mind. Your mindset is rigid and fixed.
Yep.
It's not a growth mindset, and it needs to be. And I think that in marketing and brand, it's the same.
I want to pull on something we were just talking about off camera. So connection is often found through deep vulnerability, right? It allows us to have these really meaningful interactions. You talked about Red Wing in this really unique use case where you found kind of this unique value prop, if you will, or how you want to coin it, and you took us through a story I thought was really compelling. I'd love for you to share that with the listeners and viewers.
Sure. So we've been working with Red Wing Shoe Company, a great Minnesota brand, for the last 7 years. And we helped them introduce Red Wing for Business, which is their industrial, it's basically a platform for offering safety footwear programs to major corporations and crews. Yeah. And so our Red Wing and our client customer that we're marketing to is a safety director, because they're responsible for putting safety footwear on their crews and their employees. And so when we were charged with doing the first ever kind of brand campaign for them just a short time ago, they asked us for something that would really get a lot of attention. And so we couldn't just talk about Red Wing, even though it was a brand campaign. We can't talk about Red Wing. We want to celebrate the safety director and their role. But a lot of times, those crews don't always have the greatest relationship with their safety manager. They appreciate them, but they also kind of don't appreciate all the protocols, all the requirements, and so on. So we actually leaned into that because in talking with a lot of tradespeople, one of the things they say that they appreciate about their safety director is they send them home safe at night. And they always can have dinner with their wife and kids and know that they're safe. And so we leaned into that, and we came up with a campaign called Thanks for Nothing. And what we did was we said, you know what, if nothing happens on site, the safety director's done their job. And so we put that out there. We invited tradespeople and construction people and so on to send messages to their safety director thanking them for nothing. And so we got all sorts of user-generated content where these guys really played along, men and women. They really played along with it. They'd say, you know, they'd record on their phone because we just had them upload it to a site, and they'd say all these anecdotes about what they, you know, what a pain in the butt these guys were or something like that. But then at the end they'd say, but you send me home safe or something like that, and then they'd say, thanks for nothing. And it was just, it was really authentic, and it was really kind of taking this vulnerability of acknowledging that safety director and that crew don't all, I mean, usually they have a good relationship, but there's always a little bit of tension. And we embraced that. We put that right out there in front of people and said, let's go.
That's
Brilliant.
fantastic.
Yeah.
Some of the simplest, most succinct copywriting is the hardest to get to, but you hit the nail on the head there, it sounds like, as well.
Yeah. And I mean, it takes a little bit of that vulnerability, that kind of tongue-in-cheek for even the safety director to admit, I'm not the most popular person around, but you know, if I do my job well, nothing goes wrong.
There's pride in that.
And so, but not everyone probably wants to admit that either. And so it's nice to lean into that relationship, and what a fantastic campaign.
Yeah, thank you. As we continue to ladder up the conversation, one of the things that's at the crux of any great brand is trust. You yourself, my friend, just launched a rebrand with Leadpages. It's much about re-identifying the category you align with, but also building some trust along the way, maybe exposing some of these vulnerabilities. Could you take the listeners and viewers through a little bit of the process that's led to Leadpages' new voice position, similar to kind of Chris had talked about with Red Wing?
Yeah, so I mean, we looked at our customer base, and we realized we were only talking to one segment of it. We were talking to solopreneurs and entrepreneurs. But we weren't talking to the small businesses, the medium businesses, and even the enterprise businesses that use Leadpages every day. And so with this rebrand, we wanted to better speak to the teams that leverage Leadpages. I don't know if we found that vulnerable spot yet, but we certainly are looking to expand our messaging and not just be for a singular audience, but to better represent the entirety of folks who have been subscribed to Leadpages for quite a long time, but it felt like maybe we were ignoring a little bit along the way.
You know, something that you just mentioned there, though, is you don't know that you've really necessarily got that vulnerability in the brand.
Sure.
But I think that in B2B, what the job that we're trying to do is, like, I don't get up every day and say, I can't wait to do another campaign. What we wake up and try to do is create conversations. And so even having this type of a podcast where you're talking about your vulnerability, it's authentic and it's vulnerable in and of itself.
Yeah.
And so it represents your brand.
Yeah.
It's a deeper conversation, not just a brand campaign. And I think that that's something that if somebody's listening, that's a key takeaway is a lot of times the campaigns are about what we do and what we can do for you, and it has to display that confidence. But it leads to conversations, sales conversations, content, all sorts of different things that can be more realistic, more vulnerable, more authentic.
Yeah.
And that's really, I think, the job of a brand is to introduce and set up a conversation. That's the job of marketing.
I love that.
Great, yeah.
I think it's fantastic. Schermer as a brand, has it always been what you intended it to be, or has it evolved immensely over 28 years? I'm going to guess evolution, but maybe just a little bit of that journey, Chris, because it stands on its own 2 feet, obviously, and in a reputable fashion.
Well, thanks. When I started the agency, I was very young, actually, and I had only had one job out of college. I worked for a grocery company called Superpower, and I worked in their advertising group, so my job was managing marketing programs for retailers. And I loved that customer interaction. I didn't love working at a large company. It's not, my nature is one of rebellion and not rule following. And so I knew I wanted to start an agency, so I jumped in. I had a partner for the first 10 years. It was a great guy. I didn't intend to be a B2B agency. When we first started, we thought we were going to be retail and then some healthcare. But we had this one B2B client that started with us right from the beginning, and they would often ask us to do things that were not just about design or creative. It was about product strategy, go-to-market strategy, product portfolio strategy. And I found that those were worthy problems to solve. And my mind really enjoyed that. And the harder it was, the less agencies there were that wanted to compete for that type of work.
Yeah.
And so I looked around this town, and this is back in the late 90s, early 2000s. This town is amazing when it comes to agencies.
Oh, it's prolific,
You can't compete with some of the consumer brand oriented agencies.
Yeah.
So I looked around and I thought, you know what? I like this client. I like B2B. I like solving hard problems. Let's do it. And so we focused on it within like the first 2 years.
Interesting.
And that's been us ever since.
And so you've been B2B since then?
B2B ever since.
Yeah. Very cool. Yeah.
Yeah, it's fascinating. It's
And can I just, I got to toot my own horn.
Please.
Just about a half an hour before I came here, we found out that we are again a finalist for the Association of National Advertisers B2B Small Agency of the Year. That's our third year in a row and 7th in the last 10.
It's a heck of an afternoon for you.
It is a good
check that.
afternoon.
And we give you a microphone and a stage to celebrate it. I love how you picked the hardest problem to solve, and then that became your one of your core tenets. I mean, that's where success tends to find itself. The easy stuff has been long taken as we know it to be as well. So, for those that have been running the agency for some time, Chris, or aspire to do so, what is some of the sage advice that you can pass along to them after 28 years of doing this work?
Oh man. Take care of your people before your clients. I think that's just a key thing. Every day we go to work and we're trying to do work on behalf of our clients, and that is so important. But and I'm not trying to be overly humble, but I've said to my people, and I know it for a fact, I don't have a business if it isn't for my people. I also need clients, but it's the people who are going to keep me in business for 28 years. And so I'm really grateful. I think that being grateful is the right attitude to have as a business owner, so that you don't ever take anything or anybody for granted, clients and team included.
I know, you carry a similar mantra. The investment in the people is what you know will serve you and the business well into the future. Maybe some of your process and methodology as well, Michael.
Yeah, I mean, every decision that we make within the organization is driven by an individual. I can't make every decision that we have in front of us as much as I might want to try.
Believe them.
But yeah, we really, you are the collection of your organization, and it is incredibly important to have everyone aligned. To continue to invest in folks, make sure that they're up to date as well. We will not adopt AI if our people don't adopt
true.
AI,
Yep,
right?
totally.
And so if we're going to compete, we have to first compete internally and be the best versions of ourselves at work. We talked a little bit about this last season.
We did.
Right? With
Thomas, yes.
Thomas
Yeah.
and the coaching. And I think it absolutely rings true. The innovation is going to come from within the organization.
Yep.
And so we need our people to be aligned there, especially, we've made it 12 years. Can we make it 28? I don't know.
Yeah. You will. Exactly. You will.
Exactly.
From what I hear is coming, you're going to be around.
There we
for a long
go.
time.
Chris, we've talked about AI a lot in this season, and for the right reasons. Obviously, it's topical, of course. There's a lot of things that are being produced by AI, but the authenticity surrounding the work is probably something that's somewhat polarizing, and I might guess you have an opinion or two to share on the topic.
I do. I think that anybody who's resisting the usage of AI in marketing is not going to be in marketing for very much longer, and that's a scary proposition. But I think it's the right attitude to have. Is we have to embrace it. However, what I'm starting to see now is AI is being used in very effectively for producing and for shortcuts on production and measurement. There's different things like that. Where I don't like AI a lot is in original content creation. I just find it to be inauthentic. And relating it back to Joni Mitchell, everything that she put out on this album and in general is her. Yeah. It's her thoughts. It's her voice. It's authentically her and unique because of it. And I would just worry that brands are going to start using AI to create at scale and personalize in such a way that it just won't be authentic.
Interesting.
Now, I think that AI can be used to magnify and amplify authentic content and personalize it and localize it and different things like that, and that's how it should be used. But I am a bit of a purist when it comes to what a brand's voice is, and how that should come across. I think that should be something that is felt, not just produced.
Yeah, I like that. What about your thoughts, good sir, on AI and its usage and authenticity?
I think it's spot on, right? There needs to be a root, right? There needs to be something. And that's a lot of what we talked about is how do we accentuate the human creation and the human output, but how do we maintain it? We wouldn't be talking about any of these artists if they had put out an AI written album, right? Like from scratch. Nobody wants to hear that. And so there needs to be a root. And when you lose that, I think you're right. Like brands will probably try to over-optimize too quickly. And that can be a dangerous oversight. And in the effort of over-optimizing, you are going to start to staff down as well, right? And expect more. So there could be scenarios that are quite dangerous for a brand where they've destaffed over-reliance on AI and they actually lose the mission.
Totally.
Yeah.
It's hard to quantify brand integrity, but it's of the utmost importance, and it's up to us to continue its curation and to ensure its longevity.
Yeah.
So,
well, just one last point about that is, B2B is all about trust.
yeah, 100%.
It is, and every brand is about trust because it represents what your expectations are. But the difference between B2C and B2B is, I've heard this before, is that in B2C you're spending money, in B2B you're asking someone to spend their reputation. And so brands have to be cognizant of the fact that it cannot be artificial, it can't be synthetic if you're going to want to really build trust. And I think that trust begins with the brand's authenticity.
I love that. No, well said. We're nearing the end of the episode, and I think we talked about vulnerability off the top, and it often takes a pretty steadfast push for people to be willing to accept it. I would like to hear it from both you gentlemen, words of encouragement for those that have thought about vulnerability on a personal level or at a brand level where they're like, boy, we should be this, but can we be this? Chris, what would you say to those people considering it?
I say go for it.
Thank you.
I mean, you got to go for it because if you don't, you're just going to be wearing a uniform and doing nothing to set yourself apart and differentiate yourself. And I think that people trust people who are, like we said, vulnerable and authentic. And so while we can convey confidence, we have to go beyond that next step into understanding each other. And I think the same, it could be said for any type of brand or marketing program.
Michael, words of encouragement for those considering vulnerability as a superpower, perhaps?
Well, I'll harken back to something that you said, which was the job of marketing is to start the conversation. And vulnerability is a conversation starter, right? And so it is absolutely a way to get people to understand who you are, whether you're a solo founder or a new founder, and the story is your own journey, to a larger brand who maybe are leaning into some of the kind of known frictions within an industry. It's important. It makes people talk. And so I think vulnerability is the conversation starter. If the job of marketing is to start conversations, why wouldn't we be leaning into it more?
I love it. Gentlemen, heck of a conversation today. We love what you've brought to the conversation, Chris. 28 years of experience, there's some sage wisdom found within it, and I think we felt that today, as with our listeners and viewers as well. For those that would like to know more about Chris or Schermer as a whole, where can we point them towards?
Schermer.co.
Schermer.co.
Schermer.
Okay, simple
Amazing.
enough, Chris. Excellent. Michael and I want to thank you for your time today, your consideration, and your well-thought expertise today.
Yeah.
Chris, thank you so much.
Appreciate it.